Good afternoon. How are you? Well, I'm back on the road today. The last couple of days I've been kind of overwhelmed with work during the daylight hours. I was up till 11, 58 working to file a document for Wednesday's date because that's when my papers were due in that case in the court of, well, it was in the district court. And then yesterday I had an opportunity to visit with Ari to discuss the plea of Jenna Ellis, and also to discuss some of the news about Meadows, former chief of staff to Trump, testifying with immunity before the grand jury, in the grand juries being run by special counsel Smith, who has the case pending in the District of Columbia before Judge Chutkan. So it was the trip to D.C. was sort of like the old days, which is I was in the studio because Ari was down here. And it's always more fun when we're on the set together, anybody's on the set together, because there's something that can happen when you're close enough to see every movement of each other. So we had that yesterday, and this is a place up on the hill where their studios are, and they really seem to be going full tilt now, because when I was there, everything is much more staff available, and it's very impressive. And there's a big room for meet the press. Room isn't fair, it's more like a stadium. And the person who was escorting me took a picture of me there. If I can find it, I'll put it up with this walk and talk. And I thought the interesting thing with Ari, whether you saw it or not, I'd like to add this comment about it. Ari decided, I think, to underscore how imperfect, if not insincere, was Jenna Ellis's plea. Now, Ari can speak for himself, but he was rightly critical of a person who was sort of hanging back, wanting to give us a narrative that she's good and she sort of got tricked a little bit. And I spoke against that, as did he, during the meeting. But there's another thing here which underscores how we make a difference for people coming along behind us, either in age or training or experience. And it is that if you're exposed to the methods of Trump, who probably has never had an honest full day in his life, and the people that he surrounds himself with, who are more senior, you shouldn't be surprised if the younger ones who attach to that are not models of ethical or lawful or constitutional behavior. And I hate to say it, she seems like a charming lady, but she was a reporter at Fox, on-air personality, and she threw herself into saying things that she had to know weren't true at the time she was saying them. And that was why I had the remark about it's okay for ambition to take you to certain places, but you have to have some standard inside of yourself, not to be taken over by that ambition, not to become a person who will do anything to get ahead, and your existence becomes seeking to win, not to do what is right. And winning is not defined as winning in the righteous way, prevailing, taking over, getting ahead, access to power, funds, money, sex, drugs, who knows, whatever it is that makes you go. And I don't know where the training comes for the others who end up being the prosecutors. But I do. It's interesting. Take Willis, for example, the prosecutor. She went to court with her dad, who was a lawyer and somewhat radical, and she went to court with him on these cases. So he, as an older example, and yes, a father, suggested to her, perhaps, and intensity of work and passion and belief and certain standards. I have no idea what else was going on in her life, but it's clear, and I made a remark about her, working at the case that she finally did file as the elected DA for Fulton County. And it's clear that she ends up in the prosecutor's seat chasing after misconduct, and Jenna Ellis ends up having been too easy in her lack of discipline to do what's ethical and lawful as a defendant. And here she is at a relatively young age. What's she going to do? Write confessional books? It's terrible. So anyhow, I found that pretty interesting. She, on the one hand, she's with America's mayor, who buried whatever favorable legacy he had as a result of how he handled 9/11, as compared to all the other things he did wrong during his public period. And myself included, I had to think about what else I didn't focus on when I thought of Rudy, besides our days as prosecutors and so forth, on the things that he was doing that were growing worse and worse. So there's that. I think it's a sad statement that we can't foster in those who have certain advantages by DNA, education, experience, to be a positive force in our society, and then they're a negative force, which takes me to one of the issues that we've been talking about, which is how do you choose a speaker for our Congress? And it looks like the only way we choose a speaker for our Congress is that we have Trump tell us who that should be. So for example, we had Emmer, who was the whip for the House, and will they go with him? Well, they were going to go with him until Trump said, no, he wasn't a denier. He's for same-sex marriage, and a whole variety of things that are obviously the litmus test by which you can be the unconditional, inhumane, purposeless leader of a group of people who seek only to hurt and harm and not to salve and save. It's a shame, but that's where we are. So the R's, that is the Republican conference, they chose Johnson from Louisiana, who is an evangelist and who is a denier, and who claims that a denier in the sense he claims, we didn't have a fair election. And there's a whole variety of issues. Now, okay, we know about the maniacs in the Republican caucus. And we know that there was a holdout of 8 that defeated but defeated others. So what have we got here? This is people who are adult and older and experienced and members of Congress. And I'm talking about those 20 or more moderate Republicans who voted for this guy Johnson. It's an outrage. Why would you do that? He is wrong. And it says a lot about the Republican Party, and it says a lot about what they must have done to the moderates, whether it's 20 or 70 of them, to convince them to shut up and vote right. And I think they probably had a conference, and the 20 or 70, I think, were put in a room, or they were dealt with one by one and told, we're gonna kick your ass in a primary and throw you out of this body. Is that what you want? Now, somebody can come and say, they just had an illumination and it changed them forever. And now they know they've done the right thing. Well, how are we going to keep the government open? Are we going to get the money to Israel? Or are we going to get the money to Ukraine? Where are we going with this? Can we give peace a chance? can we do the other things we must do in the Congress that we're not doing? So I think what may come of this is more and further pain and suffering. I think one thing that sort of puts this in bright letters is an editorial by the Washington Post that surprised me. It was sort of blaming the Republicans, or the Democrats, excuse me. Like the Democrats should help the Republicans. The Democrats should fold and vote for a speaker proposed by the Republicans. Really? What are you, crazy? What, can't we all be friends? No. Sometimes you can't be friends. You can't negotiate a question like, do we keep the government open? Can't debate it. Has to happen. What do we do for our allies abroad? Well, if we've committed ourselves to do something, then we should do it. So we're failing our international policies. Should we be sending representatives in the Congress who are against Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid? Should we be supporting men and women who would deny women the rights to their body? That is the domain to do with what is who they are. And isn't that really just a way to diminish women? It's not just about abortion, which is the tool by which they try to circumscribe women. And to use religion, whatever it is you believe, and to impose it on others in violation of the First Amendment and the notion of separation of church and state. So you can go on and on about these issues. So what the hell's wrong with the Post? Does the Post really believe that Democrats are responsible for Republicans not getting together, and we should cure the fact that they are not representative of the people by going along? I think that's wrong. I think that shows you don't have the standard. You are maybe not Jenna Ellis, but you have the defect that she enjoyed and hopefully will recover from by the fact that she's cooperating. Maybe she'll learn from that. And so we have hard days ahead of us, but I think the indicators are that the Republicans have no idea what they're doing and won't be able to do very much. And I'm very proud of how the Democrats stood together despite the Post editorial, which was just dead wrong. And we have to call out those who, well, we disagree with. I mean, you don't have to do anything terrible. Just inform those around us and those who purport to lead us what they should be doing. That's it. That's how we exercise our voice. And we do that in this next election, these local elections. Do not elect a Republican for anything. I don't care if they're your brother. You do not elect them. If my brother was running and my mother and father were alive, that would be a hard choice for me. But luckily, my brother had no interest in politics. So this would never happen in my lifetime. Now, personal news. I'm feeling, today I had no medicine of any sort, not even a Tylenol. And that's nice because there's like this abiding pain getting over the surgical procedure I had. As miraculous as laparoscopies are in terms of being non-invasive as compared to what they did years ago. And but until I see my doctor next week, I'm limited to easy walks without incline for really no more than 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And I've tried to keep my speed down, which is not my natural pace. And I appreciate those of you out there telling me about your surgical procedure and how that worked or didn't work for you. So, take care. Bye-bye.